All right, good morning, everyone. It is 45 minutes after 9 on this stormy start here today for this Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday. Had to think for a minute. It's already been a weird week, right? Hope you guys are doing well. I'm Wave Meteorologist Brian Good. Welcome to Storm Talk, which it's all about the focus for tonight into tomorrow. I am not able to get enough time in today to discuss anything beyond tomorrow. So if you were wanting to know about the weekend outlook or next week, unfortunately, time is just not going to allow it today. It's just too much to cover in the short term, and I want to make sure that try to get to as many questions as I can in the window I've got here, okay, and make sure everyone understands the setup, and we'll take it one step at a time. What'd you say, Ellen? Oh, yeah, well, still not the S word, right? And no snow chances. I will say that for right now. I can at least put that to rest for the moment. I don't think we're entirely done for the season, but I think we're done for now. Okay, so Ashley, I see that you're here. I was waiting for you to log in. So let's get right to it. We'll start with the setup outside now. Looks still quite stormy, right? This is at Starlight, Indiana, Huber's Orchard and Winery. We've got a mix of sun and some low cumulus clouds, nimbostratus mixed into all that. So when you get the sun breaks, of course, it makes the sky look a lot more threatening than would be if you were completely overcast. But the sun breaks, not exactly a good thing either, right? We don't want a whole lot of fuel here today, but we will have some passing through from time to time. Here's the radar from last night, this morning. These storms blossomed on the radar right across just the western side there of Breckenridge County, all the way into about Hancock County and the western side of Grayson. And they nearly developed exactly where a lot of the modeling had them. So that was good and bad. Good in the idea that puts a lot of faith, in a sense, of some of the high-res data having a good handle on the atmosphere as it stands today. Bad because of what the high-res data is saying for later tonight and tomorrow. So, again, kind of mixed feelings on this. But they came through. We saw several hail reports, but I did not see anything outstanding on the hail side. Just numerous small hail reports, especially that were across, especially southern Jefferson County, Highview, Okolona area, especially in Fern Creek. They moved all the way into areas of Simpson, so just south of Simpsonville, into southern Shelby and Spencer County. No doubt, I think the biggest thing with this, though, was the cloud-to-ground lightning. Well, I'm sure a lot of you, a little earlier than you wanted, certainly shook my house. My dogs are still trying to get over it. This morning, they are not fans of lightning, that's for sure. But that is over. So that moved out of here. We didn't get any warnings with that, so that's good. It came through fairly tame, but it certainly was a good test of the conditions the atmosphere is in. For the rest of the day, actually will be fairly quiet for our area. So it's going to be just mild all day and windy all day. And the sun breaks are really not only key on the fuel that we'll be developing today, but also on the wind as well. You go back and forth in a partly cloudy to a overcast sky back and forth. That will increase. We call some of the mixing in the atmosphere. And we do have a wind advisory out. I didn't include it in here. Sorry about that. But everyone, I think, knows. Wind advisory is out. Officially starts in about 4 hours, I believe, from now, 3 or 4 hours, and goes all the way through tomorrow morning. So general wind, this is not thunderstorm wind, but just general wind will be elevated throughout the day today. Those gusts around 40 miles per hour. So just hang on tight. Otherwise, mild and warm today. We're going to get back likely above 70, and the record today is 75. We'll see if we can get close to that or not. Certainly a much more of a messier sky today than we had yesterday. Yesterday, we had the full-on blue sky in many spots, so it wasn't much to slow the thermometer down, made it all the way to 77. Today, a few things in the way that could slow the thermometer down, but still it is quite warm. There's a new update just kicked in, 64 now in Louisville. All right, so what is the game plan? Well, there's a lot of pieces coming together that will basically congeal right over the Ohio Valley and the Midwest over the next 12 hours. This is the same setup we were talking about, was it nine days ago, something like that, where we had the trough that was digging in across the west, a northern branch feature, and whether or not we'd be getting any type of phasing of the southern branch. Still not seeing a lot coming from that low in the Baja Peninsula, but this northern feature in itself has already got such a nice kick to it that it will have no problem on kicking up an active radar for this evening and tonight. If you look carefully, you can almost see where the boundary is going to be setting up tonight. Let me try to draw it. There's a band of clouds around Wichita. So roughly in this zone and point south, that is where your thunderstorm zone will be today. They will begin to initiate in that zone. Anywhere north of that, I don't see anything happening at all. But right in what we call like a V-notch of a storm system like this that's developing, that's where you're likely going to get your thunderstorms to pop. Notice, by the way, it's hard to see, but there are some polygons that are in the dark blue in Colorado. Those are snow squall warnings that are out. I mean, they're rare around here, but even for them, they don't see them too often. But when they do, boy, they're a big mess out there. But that's the system really is digging into Colorado right now, kicking up a lot of the wind and, of course, the snow out in that area. All right, here we go with the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. All right, this is the most recent outlook that's about roughly an hour old. Yes, they did expand the slight risk. They started to do hints of that yesterday on the evening hours, and they continued that today. I do not think they're done yet with the outlook. I'll explain why in just a second, but a slight risk, or level 2 out of 5, generally around Chicagoland through St. Louis, all the way to WKU and near EKU as well, and north of there. Closer view shows just about everybody's in a severe risk. In fact, everyone is in a severe risk. It's just certainly a little higher north of the parkways versus south. Why is that the case? Mainly timing. I talked about the 7 a.m. timing on this yesterday, how that's the cutoff for these outlooks. So there is another outlook for tomorrow that would include the rest of southern Kentucky, but it's after the 7 a.m. window. So that's why you don't see it listed there. But you should also take from this too. Anytime you see a category that drops off toward the end of the time frame, if that's the direction the storms are moving, should tell you the storms would be weakening during that position too when they get south of parkways, which is certainly true in this case. Okay, which is something that's always nice from the Storm Prediction Center is they're able to break down these threats by type. This is probably the one that gets the most attention is the tornado potential. And I know 5% seems very, very low, and it is, relatively speaking, but related to about 25 miles of a given point, it does start to stand out a little more. So it is a bit of an elevated signal on the tornado potential. I'll try to outline some areas that I'm watching, but I think southern Indiana right now is certainly a target to watch for that. And I can see why they brought it into northern Kentucky, because the storms, as you're about to see, are going to go from supercells and evolve into a line of storms. And during that transition of going from cellular individuals into a line, you can still carry a tornado threat until eventually the straight line wind threat becomes the main issue. And that will be the rest of its storyline as it tracks to the south and east. And that's where your straight line wind potential kicks in. It too is elevated. Now, the last parameter, which is interesting, is the one that's the highest of them all, and that is the hail potential. And you see the black hatched area that goes all the way down to basically downtown Louisville. Anytime you see that indicates the potential for significant size on the hail part. Now, quarter size is considered severe. That's where warnings are issued. This is mainly because of the supercell structures that form first in Indiana. They have the better potential to produce the larger hailstones that can get up close to about golf ball size. if not even a tad larger in some cases. Now, that part we don't know entirely sure on at the moment because of the amount of fuel they may have. You just will see the storms fire in Indiana first, so you'll have more fuel to work with because you're closer to the sunset period of the day after sunset. So you got a little more of the heating left over from today to work with. By the time they work their way into Kentucky, we're way into the deep part of night. So the amount of fuel that they'll have will be cut down, and there won't be cellular structures any longer. There'll be more into a line, and that cuts down too on the potential to get these dramatic updrafts to get large hailstones. So that's why the hailstone threat is hatched and mainly across Indiana for that very reason. And if I'm getting too technical, I apologize. I promise I will recap this 2 or 3 times in different ways to hopefully explain it all to you guys. All right. So pay attention to where you are on the map, by the way, as I go through these maps and Futurecast and timing scales here. So you guys can ask questions here in just a second, because I'm sure you're going to have plenty. All right. So let's start with the high res, the HER model. Again, did great on this morning. So I don't see an argument against it right now for using it for this particular forecast. It's got all the way through the daytime period. Again, it's holding us on this side of the 70-degree mark. I still think we can get to 70 or a little higher. Models don't always see the heat-on effect that Louisville can certainly have. So we tend to overachieve in the city of Louisville. So I think today is probably one of those days. We'll do it again. Either way, mild everywhere. But notice the radar is quiet. There's nothing wild happening throughout the rest of the daytime period. I can't rule out more spotty downpours or shower here and there. For sure, that's going to be possible. But nothing in terms of severe weather, because, hold on one second, let me block our spammer. I think I got her. Good, I got her. Okay. Because the atmosphere is a little odd here today because we had the morning rain. So the lower layers of the atmosphere, closer to where you and I are standing, are cooler than when it is above our head. And anytime we see that, that's more of an inversion setup, or in a severe thunderstorm forecasting type mode, we call that a cap. So there's a lid that is placed on us today. So that will keep the radar quiet. Thunderstorms are not able to bust through the cap to allow for them to fire up. However, the potential is there for that cap to erode away as we head into this evening. And when you erode away a cap, especially in a very rapid fashion, the end result are supercells that pop and they go up fast. And once they go up, that's where you got to watch for EM that can rotate. You got to watch for your large hail. And that zone, again, looks to be very much across southern Indiana, up through around Cincinnati, Ohio. And this snapshot here on the Futurecast is it's got midnight listed. Again, I'll go through this in a more specific time frame in just a second as this moves on through. Zach, Cape, so you asked a Cape question earlier. Not a lot of people watching know what Cape or shear is all about, but Zach, just to answer your question, Cape is running about 700 to 1100, and that fades as the night goes on. And shear is running at a good 45 to 65 knots, if you want to know. All right. So again, storms fire first, supercells across areas of Indiana. All right. Then you get the bumper cars action, where all these cells bump into one another. They start to then form into a line. Now, it does look like there's a bit of a break that happens in between the supercells moving into northern Kentucky and then the line that gets a little more organized. That will be interesting. I don't like to see that. Anytime you get two different modes that are interacting with each other, that can cause some rotation as well. So we don't want that, because that's 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's awful close to the metro for that to be happening. But again, something we'll have to watch. Once we get past this, then you get into your line of storms. And yes, you can still get an isolated tornado along a line like that, especially when it wiggles. And remember, anytime you see a line like that of severe weather that wiggles, you can get it embedded. Weak tornado usually, and brief. Much more of a challenge to pick those out on the radar. Weather Service has got a busy job for them tonight, because they have these supercell structures in Indiana first, and then they got to try to keep an eye on that line and see if there's any notches or wiggles in it as it moves across Kentucky during a time of the night that is certainly not safe. Everyone's asleep. And then this is the last of it right here into southern Kentucky that fades out about 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, here's what's interesting is that you're going to see this continue, but we'll get some showers on the post front side. But, man, it is going to just stay windy and cold. Temperatures fall all day into the 30s, with wind chills in the 20s. And I'm talking about wind chills in the 20s by lunch tomorrow. So a very dynamic 24 hours ahead of us, but no doubt tomorrow is going to be so different from the time that you're waking up and heading out the door. Even the lunch would be different. Certainly when you head home, it may be bright and sunny when you get off work tomorrow. But boy, that wind's going to cut through you. It's going to be cold, and it's like a one-day cold snap coming our way. But it's the data is pretty overwhelming on that idea. Here are some of the soundings, and this is mainly for Southern Indiana. And I apologize. There's a lot here. But at least wanted to show you what some of the things we're looking at. Couple of things on this. First off, there is your red line. That's your temperature line. There is your green, which is the moisture line. When they are close together, you're saturated. Far apart, you got dry air. This is where we're standing basically at the ground level. Up here is where the airplanes are flying. So you're looking at this, looking at the atmosphere sideways, right? If this was the red and green were solid touching each other all the way up and down the sounding, this would be a heavy rain scenario, some lightning, very heavy rainfall, flooding more than anything. And that would really be about it. But we don't have that. Instead, we've got these dry pockets, especially in the mid layers of the atmosphere, indicating not only can you get large hail to form, but you can get damaging winds that can also develop because the air will try to evaporate and cool in this environment, and that creates a very strong push of wind toward the ground. So this is certainly a severe sounding. This is, again, for Southern Indiana that we're looking at. Your helicity values, storm relative helicity is over 600. That's very high, very high. About 100 to 50, somewhere in that range is what I'll look at for even severe. And this is showing 600. So yeah, there's certainly a severe sounding here and even a tornado look to all of this. But notice on this particular run of the HRRR, you don't have the red line bowing out to the right. Why is that important? Well, remember I said it's cool at the ground and a bit warmer above our heads today. It does not have much of a cap. And if the red line was sticking out a little further to the right, about a mile up from the ground, it would indicate a bit more of a capping feature. And that would put a lid on some of your really damaging winds from making it to the ground level, and it would help on the severe threat overall. That would be a good thing. But this, again, the HRRR model does not really see it. Now, the NAM does to an extent. If you look carefully, you can see just barely a notch. It does erode it away, by the way, after about 1 o'clock in the morning, but it does hold on to it until then. So the cap is going to be the one big thing I think it's going to play out on how strong these storms can actually get this evening, especially for Indiana. You're in this just a prime spot there today for supercells that can form. This cap is going to be key, absolutely key. If this erodes away faster than expected, it is going to be a very busy night for us. If it holds on longer than expected, we'll end up with a line of thunderstorms and hopefully just a couple of warnings, and we'll be able to tame this down dramatically. It really is going to be that sensitive of a forecast based on just what the temperature is just above your heads for tonight. High-res modeling is not going to get that fully great and accurate. What will help with that will be actually some of the data we're going to get from the airplanes, especially UPS planes tonight as they come in for a landing for this evening's rush that they have there at Ollie International. When they come in to fly, especially with the south wind, they should be coming in from Indiana. We should be able to get data from the planes themselves. We don't have access to that, but the Weather Service does, and they'll relay that on usually over to us to let us know if that warm layer or the cap is still there or it has indeed eroded away. So a lot of crucial data we're not able to get for another 8 or 9 hours from now. So this is going to go down to the wire. So right now, all we can do is let you know we're seeing, make sure you are fully aware of the potential the system's got. And with this being a nighttime event, you're going to hear much more attention to this than normal because it's just of the time of when everyone's going to bed. And if you're not paying attention to the forecast, this is not what you want to see as you're going to bed. And you don't want to have that middle of the night wake up call and just don't know where to grab everything real quick. Don't have a flashlight, don't have all the tools you need to get quickly to your safe spot in your home. So make sure to review all that this afternoon, this evening. And let's just hope that we end up with a stronger cap and it holds on and keeps the atmosphere tamed. That would be ideal for sure, but I can't guarantee it, of course. The learning module, the artificial intelligence type of severe weather forecasting, always fun to keep an eye on this. It too has an elevated setup for all the 3 parameters. Tornado is the top left, your top right is going to be hail, and your bottom left there is the damaging wind potential. And they're all basically lined up along the Ohio River and north. So they really do focus on those cells. The black dots is where the worst of each parameter is forecast by the module to be. So for tornado potential, it really likes around Chicago for some of the worst. For your hail potential, not too far away from Purdue University. And for damaging straight line winds, it's got it very close to Lexington in northern Kentucky. More than likely a Boeing segment is what it's banking on there. So all three parameters are elevated. To me, this looks like if we see signs that continue to grow where we do not have a cap or the cap erodes away, this would likely get moved up to an enhanced risk on all the variables I've seen so far. It's not my call. It's Weather Service. We got several of the Storm Prediction Center, so we got a few more updates to go. There's one that'll be at, I believe, it's 11:30 or 12:30. Daylight time always throws me off when we're right on the edge of it. I think it's 11:30 will be the next one. Then again, at about 3:30, we'll have another update and even another one mid-evening. So we got several more updates coming from the Storm Prediction Center. So if there is any change in the status, we'll let you know. It really doesn't matter, to be honest with you, because I just laid out to you guys a best and worst case type scenario. So you should already have an idea of what to expect tonight. It's just more about the labeling of it all as we head throughout the day. Now, let me recap, and then I'll get to your questions. Now, here's the Futurecast again, but a different look, this time more broken down by timing. As we head into this evening, main window for the supercells to form in Indiana, I'm going to go 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. This is everybody watching it in Indiana. I know the dotted line may not go all the way to the river there, but just for description's sake here, Indiana, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. Now, once we get past the supercells and then that second line that we'll try to connect onto this, that there's going to be a bit of an overlap there in that 12 to 2 window. But in general, I'll go ahead and shift the next time period of 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. That would include Louisville, Carrollton, all the way down to about Breckinridge County into Hardinsburg. That will be the main time period that a lot of you are watching right now in the metro, especially need to monitor there, the 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. window. The 4 a.m. will be a little bit on the southern side of that in time frame. 1 a.m. a little more closer to the Ohio River for the beginning stages. All right. And then finally, the last of this as it heads to the south between 4 and 7 a.m. will be south of the parkways, basically south of B-Town, south of Bardstown, 4 to 7 a.m. And then we're done. Easy number today, type 3, if you're okay. If you understand, type 3 if you're okay. If you're not, then ask your question now, and I'll try to get to it. All right, let's see. Shelby, hopefully I answered that by showing Southern Indiana there for you. I'm not sure where you're at. Hopefully that helps. All right, I'm not gonna be able to see every question, so let me kind of scan back and down. Wait a minute, Doug, I saw your question. It went on by Doug. How much rain? You know, that's the thing. These are moving fairly quick. So they have 1 inch potential on them, but moving so fast, it's likely to be under that 1 inch bar, probably about, I would say, a ½ inch to 3/4. There is a bit of that slanting that happens, a bit of an angle to it. So there is a chance for some overlapping or training, but overall, most of it will be south and east. That will get some of the higher totals. But I think under an inch is going to be fairly common. Again, if they were moving slower, I'd be a little more concerned on the severe risk on that. Southern Indiana, how many rounds, 1 or 2? I think I got your question. Well, it depends. If the supercells move through and then that second line that forms, you could get to if you're close to the river. If you're further north, Jackson, Jennings County, Lawrence County, you probably will just get the supercells only. And then the second and maybe even third round will likely keep evolving more to your south. But if you're near the river, you're likely going to get more than 1 round out of that. And I would include Louisville in that idea. Stephanie, are we looking at this event as March 1st, 2017? I don't recall March 1st, 2017, to be honest with you, Stephanie. I have a lot of events in my head. But this is not a big event, only because of the middle of the night. Timing does help. But again, the wind shear with this is quite intense. So you don't want to play around with it. Even a small amount of fuel is not a good thing. And I've seen this go either way. I've seen this go where we end up with a cap that wins. We end up with some wind reports, but a lot of rain, a lot of lightning, and everything ends up going fairly well. It's a very high intense anxiety moment. We feel the same thing, and then we end up okay. But I've also seen these events too, where you end up with much more organization to the supercells, especially, and things go the wrong direction quickly. So all you can do is just make sure that you're staying close to being prepared. And Stay close to the forecast changes, and we'll keep you updated on this. Again, hopefully these times help. You know, we've tried to narrow it down as much as we can. Not always able to do that, but in this one, I think we're able to. So that hopefully will help in breaking down a lot of the timing there. All right, one more question, then I have to run here. Adam in Bloomington, you're earlier, the worst impacts. Adam, you will be probably in the supercell zone when they first form there up near IU. So yes, you don't want to mess with those supercells, but even the line of storms is nothing to sneeze at. That line is going to be quite organized. You can get some very strong wind gusts with that. All right, so I'm going to look over the midday data that is rolling in, and we'll see whether or not we are seeing the same parameters as we head into this afternoon, evening. I'll have more on midday at noon, and of course, full coverage on this whole thing starting again at 3 o'clock. All right, stay safe, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.